Okay, so let's talk a little bit about culture. What is culture? Well, culture is a framework for how we see the world around us. Cultures develop and is a social programming to help us know how to interact with other people, what things are right and what things are wrong. It's a means of social control so that the social functioning can happen. It's a very important structure that we all have, whether we recognize it or not. Many people in the United States struggle to understand culture because we have this very broad framework for American culture because all of us, except for Native Americans, all came here from someplace else. And in our very brief history of 200 and some years, we've developed this very diverse sort of cultural framework. But there still is an underlying American standard that we don't always recognize as being part of because we differentiate. We're very individualistic in the United States, and that's in part why. So why does culture matter? Well, it does. From the beginnings of our history, when we argued about whether English or German was going to be the primary languages, when people came and moved across the prairie, that individualism really developed as part of our culture. And then if you think about our laws and the way we treat people, that individualism is really permeated throughout our culture. So culture are patterns of values and behaviors, which we call norms, that create this group think, that create a sense of being safety. I know that with other people who think like me, I will be protected. And that's one of the barriers that we face when we try to work across cultures, because our set of values and our norms are again the way we behave, come in conflict with a person from another culture. So what's ethnocentrism? Ethnocentrism is something we all have. We are ethnocentric. It's how we function in a culture that we know and are part of. It's protection. It's survival. So what happens when we try to work across cultures? We have to go outside of that. We have to be able to recognize that structure of our culture and say, it serves me here and it serves me here, but for a moment I'm going to lift it up and hold it right here so that I'm aware of it and I see the world through it, but open a channel to a person who comes with a different vantage point, with a different perspective, and allow myself to explore that in a way that opens up my eyes to a different way of thinking. We group to protect. It's our job as providers to open up the opportunity to see each other in a different way. We need curiosity. We need openness and flexibility. We need the capacity to stop and say, ooh, okay, I'm a little uncomfortable with what just happened, with a behavior that I just saw. Let me think about why that behavior might be there. It doesn't mean that we tolerate behaviors that we think are destructive. It doesn't mean that. But can we stop and look and think about where that might come from and then respond to it by opening up the channels of communication rather than reacting to it saying, that's wrong. It's our job as providers to create that space, to help to look at what is happening and help a newcomer to adjust to a new space, because they are also acting out of their ethnocentrism. They're trying to protect themselves. They're trying to group and gather in their resources. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy, keeping safe, keeping stable, keeping some control, So it's our job as mental health providers, as social workers, as caseworkers, it's our job to stop and say, how can I understand this in a way that I can then communicate what you need to feel safe and then eventually adjust. So when we see behaviors that make us stop, we say, okay, what is happening here? This person has experienced trauma. This person is trying to protect their family. This person has anxiety because of some terrible incident that happened in their flight or in their traumatic experience. How can I listen, ask questions so that I can understand better what's going on, and then come up with a thoughtful response that helps them, again, to feel safe, and then eventually be able to adjust their behavior in a way that's going to allow them to be more successful. It's not about right or wrong, it's about functioning. It's about feeling safe and being able to do the work or be in a family or school so that I can function and get the things that I need here in this new culture.